West Side Decorating Center. Good morning to you. Welcome to the Art Lewis Show for this Tuesday morning. Later on, after the 10 o'clock news, Dr. Merida will be with us. And also, we'll have Andy Bethune there with the Merida Peace Institute talking about an event coming up at Saginaw Valley State University in the near future. And at 11 o'clock, Mindy McIntosh from McIntosh and Associates will join us. But for this hour, we're going to talk about the insurance reforms, auto insurance reforms of 2019. And we're going to chat with a couple of folks who are involved. One is a crash victim, and the other is with Advisor Care. We'll tell you about them. But first of all, we say good morning, and I have to introduce him this way as the crash victim because he is. And he is George Van Leuven. George, good morning.
Good morning, Art.
Thanks for being with us today. Am I correct that you were a crash victim?
Yes,
All
2023.
Right. Okay, we'll get to that. And also from Advisor Care, we have Brian Harrison. Brian, good morning.
Good morning, Art. Great to be here.
Why don't we start with you, Brian? What is Advisor Care?
Yeah, so Advisor Care is a home health agency. We've been around since '97 in one capacity or another. We currently are servicing all of Michigan, including parts of the Upper Peninsula, and have a few operations on the West Coast in Arizona, Nevada, doing skilled care as well.
So you do skilled care, hospice care?
Yep, skilled care, hospice care. Skilled care meaning physical therapy, occupational
Right.
therapy, nursing. We also do and have for a long time, many years, taken care of catastrophic injury victims like George. And we also have a few other things we do in terms of pediatric therapy with kids with autism and other things as well. So
you do provide medical-style services as
Correct.
opposed to just home health care?
Correct.
Just home care, so to speak, right?
Yes, sir.
Okay. All right, George, so take us back 2 years ago, which you probably don't want to do, but you have to talk about it. What happened?
It was June 28th, 2023. Me and my son were out for a cruise for the day, going across a 2-lane highway, 55 miles an hour.
You say
beautiful.
cruise in a car?
In a van, a minivan.
Minivan, okay.
Minivan, and there was a garbage truck in front of us. Beautiful day, like I say, sun shining, out in the country, and all of a sudden the vehicle in front of us, the garbage truck made like a little swerve. I assumed that he was like swerving to miss a critter because, like I say, again, we were out in the country. So I was watching for something, and all of a sudden there was a black car, like literally straight in front of us. There was no way to hit the brakes, turn, nothing. He was going 55 eastbound, and we were going 55 miles an hour westbound.
He was in your lane coming at you?
He come right into my lane. He had some kind of a medical issue and lost control of his vehicle and come into my lane. Ultimately, we hit head-on at 55 miles an hour, each of us. I severed my spine at my L1, L2, and currently paralyzed from the waist down. Permanent injury. It's not going to get better. My son was in the passenger seat. He messed up his right knee from the accident. The seatbelt tore across his stomach, tore his umbilical cord, 4 hernias, and a couple bulge discs in his back. 2 weeks ago, he just went through his 14th surgery to try to correct his knee. I'm pretty much out of surgery for me. There's not a lot they can do for me.
All right, now I have to ask, George's in studio here. He's in his wheelchair. You severed your spine, and you're paraplegic from the waist down?
Correct.
But your arms are in slings. What's the reason for that, if I can ask?
Again, it's part of this whole reform thing. They really start limiting on what they'll do for you. And due to some of the limitations, I was having to do transfers, like from my wheelchair to bed or from my wheelchair to a vehicle. I don't have a vehicle that's adapted that I can drive, so I got to get in other people's vehicles. Getting in the vehicle, I tore my left rotator cuff.
Oh, okay.
Separate from the accident.
Well,
these were
it was part of it because I was transferring,
right?
Unlike anybody
But
else.
they were post-accident injuries,
right? Post-accident connected to the accident. Well, so I tore my left rotator cuff. I'm babying my left arm. I'm getting ready to go to the hospital to get my MRI, and I slipped on my wheelchair with my right arm and ultimately tore the right rotator cuff. So at this point, I had a dual rotator cuff surgery.
Oh, wow.
So I have 2 torn rotator cuffs, and I'm a paraplegic at this point.
Yeah. Yeah. But you'll get your arms back.
Yeah, it'll take 6 months to a year to get back to where I could transfer myself. But
so let me ask you this. Had you opted out of the personal protection the auto insurance?
Absolutely not. I've had unlimited personal injury protection plan since day one.
You're a member of the catastrophic fund, then,
right?
In other words, yeah.
But keeping in mind also, I have never had in 30 years a parking ticket. Even to this day, the injury or the accident wasn't my fault; it was the other guy's fault. So I still, to this day, do not have any points or nothing on my license. It's not like I was a crazy driver.
Right.
I'd like to mention that the other driver was killed in this accident as well. So it was
They did determine he had a medical issue before.
He had a medical issue with HIPAA laws. They don't tell us what the issue was, but
well, we can guess.
Heart attack or stroke or who knows.
So you are being what's the word I'm looking for? You receive funding from the catastrophic fund. Then your bills are paid that way.
Yes.
All right. So Brian, obviously, George is financially okay because of the catastrophic fund. What happens to those that choose to opt out? Because now, if you have Medicare, you can totally opt out of the personal protection part of your auto insurance. What's the story?
Correct. So one of the things, just to clarify, Art, if I can, I think one of the things that we found with the reform law of 19 is part of the stipulation was that home care services, it was initially interpreted, would be cut, reimbursements would have been cut by 50%.
I remember hearing that.
Yeah, so even though in theory George is covered, what George has since suffered since 2023 when the accident occurred, hasn't been able to get out of a facility setting until just recently, because even though the catastrophic fund is intended to cover his bills, there were no providers that could afford to do the work at half the cost.
So he almost had to stay in a facility to get the services.
That was his only option. And I think even from a hospitalization standpoint, initially after the accident, George, I don't remember. What did you tell me? How long were you in the hospital?
When I was in the hospital, I could not leave the hospital until I had adequate care. Again, like I said, my son was in the accident with me. My oldest daughter was assisting and taking care of him. I'm divorced, so I live by myself. My youngest daughter, her husband's fighting cancer. My middle daughter has 3 kids, and they just purchased a home that has no bedrooms on the first floor.
It's called piling on, isn't it?
Yeah. So I was kind of stuck where I was because I had no way to get any assistance, no type of aid or any type of anybody to help me. So I was stuck there. Yeah. I wasn't stuck there a day. I wasn't stuck there 2 days. I was literally stuck there months and months until my sister said she would assist in taking care of me. Well, now again, we're back to this whole thing, right? This reform law. The reform law, because my sister's taking care of me, they don't want to pay her a full amount. I'm supposed to get 24 hours a day, 7 days a week care. And as she's family, they only allow her to get 56 hours a week. And they only want to pay her $11 an hour, not even minimum wage. Okay, so they want her to work 7 days a week to help with my care, but only want to pay her for 2 days, and then they want to give her $11 an hour.
All right, let's hang on to that, and we'll be back. We'll be back with our guests. We have to take a break here on the Art Lewis Show.
Hey, nice.
exceptional value and zero NSF fees. They were also named one of America's best regional credit unions for 2025 by Newsweek. Join today at dowcreditunion.org/join.join. All right, we're back with you. In studio with me, we have George Van Leuven. George was a crash victim back in 2023, confined to a wheelchair, in effect a paraplegic. And from AdvisaCare, Home Health Care, and Hospice is Brian Harrison, talking about the insurance reform of 2019. And you were telling me something, George, which shocks me. Your wheelchair costs how much?
$10,000.
And is that covered by the catastrophic fund?
Yes, it is covered by the catastrophic fund, but it's very limited. Like, if you don't have the catastrophic fund, you don't get anything. But me having the unlimited policy, they did cover that. They cover things like that, but they won't cover the health, the care, and the staff that you need to help support your day-to-day living, you know.
So let me go back to just the wheelchair just for a minute here. I guess my first question, I never realized wheelchairs were $10,000. What makes a wheelchair $10,000? And are there different levels of wheelchairs?
Yeah, there's a ton of different levels. This one is lightweight, it's carbon fiber.
Oh, okay, I got that part.
But the moral of the story is the cost is outrageous because it's a piece of health equipment. As soon as you put the word health in front of it,
Yep.
You just tripled or quadrupled the price. It's basically a carbon fiber 10-speed bicycle with a nice seat, right? Why it's $10,000 is beyond me. So, I mean, that's another subject that, is kind of crazy.
Did you choose it, or is that what they told you you were going to get?
It's a necessity for me because I get around a lot. I try to go places. I try to do different things. It's got special bearings in it. It's lightweight, so it's easier to move.
Got it.
It'd be like carrying a backpack on your back. You'd want to carry a backpack that weighs 100 pounds. If you can get one that weighs 60 pounds, that's a lot better on your body and everything else.
So they didn't tell you had to have the $1,000 wheelchair as opposed to the $10,000 wheelchair.
Right. The equipment company makes a recommendation, and then they debate with the auto insurance company, and then they come up with a
got it
solution.
Brian, what's your relationship with George? What's AdvisaCare's relationship with George, and how is it accomplished?
Yeah, absolutely. So if before we jump to
without, by the way,
yeah.
No,
of course.
HIPAA and all
of
that
course,
stuff.
no, of course. Well, we're on the radio, so I mean,
yeah.
we've shared the names, we shared the what. I mean, it just is what it is now. But so I did want to go back a minute. I know we kind of jumped into a couple different things, but and you had said earlier, Art, that the catastrophic fund covers George's care because he opted in with the unlimited personal injury protection. And yes, in theory, that is true. I think one of the things that we've struggled with, as well as a lot of providers have struggled with, was a unintended consequence or a fallout of the 2019 reform was the fact that the law was interpreted as such, whereas home health care providers were pigeonholed into a part of that law that stated we were only eligible to be reimbursed 45% of what we were billing.
45%.
45% or half
even
of
50. Okay.
Correct, of what we were billing and getting paid in 2019. So you think about that from a pre-pandemic level, cost of wages, all that stuff. We're going to say, okay, because of this law, we're going to try to reduce costs. Okay, that's great, and yet we're going to cut providers literally in half. I mean, that's has been the issue in part as to why George was, unfortunately for so long stuck really in the hospital and then was struggling to get
out
after the fact.
We all understand what that cost us. And George, you had mentioned up to 300 home health providers went out of business, right?
Yeah, the exact number I think is hard to pinpoint, but there's a substantial amount that went out. And again, it is, as George has alluded to, there's not many providers that are continuing right now to take care of accident victims post 2019.
So does that mean that if an accident victim, George or anyone else, contracts with a healthcare provider who's being paid 45% of what they normally get, is there then a private pay piece that has to make up the difference?
That's an individual. We would say that's an individual agency option that would be likely talked through with a potential patient.
I.e., if you can afford it, yes, and if you can't,
exactly. And so, I know. So to get back to your now current, I think question that you mentioned, what's our relationship? So we actually got connected through George through an independent case manager. And doing this work, not to toot our horn, AdvisaCare has been one where we've chosen to continue to care for patients. And
more power to you.
And in doing so, we've ended up having to also fight through those issues, good, bad, or indifferent, through the court system. And so we've worked, working alongside diffs and different legal battles to.
Have you won those battles? Just out of curiosity.
So we actually, without going into detail, we are, which has given us some of the confidence to take on clients like George now and start to work through that a little bit more.
Do you see any movement in the state legislature to adjust this problem, so to speak?
It's a tough question. After being an advocate of this topic for the last 4.5 years, it's easy to be made complicated quickly from a legislative perspective.
Well, they tend to do that anyway.
Well, yeah. They certainly sometimes find the way to do that. You're right. I think one of the things that we've, again, been given some lift for is because time's gone on now for so long, there have been other, not just ourselves, in our own independent battles in the legal system and through the courts, but there have been other presiding cases that have also given us confidence to, again, reach out and want to start to care for folks like George again, even though we fully anticipate we're probably going to be paid, if not just below or just at what we're paying our staff to go initially to do that care, which obviously is not a sustainable model.
But you're a business. You're a business to make a profit.
Right. We have to come out ahead. I mean,
you have to come out at least
at some point.
At least
right.
Even if not ahead.
Right. At
preferably
some point.
Ahead.
Well, yeah. Yeah. Doesn't continue long term without it.
You're a business.
Correct.
So do you get a sympathetic ear when you talk to legislators at all?
We have. There's been a lot of, I think, great conversations in the state legislature. I all jokes aside, never thought I'd be one that would, have my own state rep cell number, but they've been gracious enough to provide that. And so
you don't have any, I can give them to you. No?
Yeah, no, exactly right. So it's been good. I think it's an issue that easily gets made complicated when trying to look at things, even in talking with the other side, so to speak, or the insurance industry. I think it's easily clouded that, well, costs will go up again, or cost, this and that. And the reality is drivers now can choose, which is great, their coverage option, like we were talking about.
But, someone like George, who's in the catastrophic claims fund and being supported by it, you're only getting 45% of that cost of care. If someone opts out altogether, they don't have home health care.
Not through their auto insurance, not through the medical PIP.
No,
correct.
21 days or whatever it is through Medicare, and that's the end of it.
Yep.
Something you consider when you do it.
Yep.
All right, we're going to take a break, come back. More with George and Brian when we return here on the Art Lewis Show.
Ready to maximize your sugar content?
First of all, mentally, how life changed for you after that accident?
Life changes. A lot of people say things change rapidly in life, and in a blink of an eye, and you can't even imagine that it's literally a blink of the eye, right? It was literally like the snap of a finger, and my life went from a full social life and doing. I was a very much outdoors person. I was into hunting, fishing, camping. I skydived, I scuba dived, I rode jet skis. I do all that kind of stuff, and
So you were active.
I'm very active outdoors.
And you were working?
And I was working. Anything to be outside, right? Anything to. I mean, if there was a reason to be outside, I wanted to be out there. Now all of a sudden, in literally a snap of a finger, it's all over, right? It's all over. Not only is your mentally, like, all the stuff that you did before is like so hard or almost impossible to do, you can't get the help to do it. You can't get the care. The insurance companies don't want to help you. It's you got just like you're fighting your own mental internal demons and battles, and then the external demons and battles are jumping in there, slapping you around on top of it.
You have touched on exactly where I was going. The physical demons are obvious.
Right.
You're sitting in a wheelchair.
Right.
You're paraplegic. The mental issues are not. Did you receive help for those?
Yes, I do see a counselor and I do see a psychologist to try to help me through it. But again, there's not a lot they can do. I mean, they fight the battle too, you know?
Yeah.
Because
are you at a point in your life, though, where you accepted this fate and you know?
Yeah, I think at this point in my life, I've accepted my position. And, you know, now I'm just I try to advocate for other people. I've always been an advocate for other people. I've always tried to help other people. And at this point, I'm just like, okay, I know what happened to me. I know how bad it's been for me. And if I can put in 2 words to help somebody else and then kind of point them in the right direction. The auto insurance companies not only like very vague about what they will cover and vague about what they do cover, but they don't share anything, right? They don't say you're entitled to ABC 1, 2, 3. If you figure it out, great. If you don't figure it out, they clap their hands and run to the bank.
That's why there are so many television lawyers harking at us now.
And that's sad. That's sad. You know, it's sad that they have to be there.
But they do. And
right.
I have to ask, did you use one? Not one of those, but did you?
Not for my my injury, for the accident itself. But again, the way the laws are written now with the accident reform laws and everything, they've got the laws to where people can literally have little to no insurance. I think the state minimum in Michigan is $50,000. If you want to carry $50,000 insurance on you, you can do that. And if you kill somebody, liability insurance. And if you kill somebody or you kill a whole family, all they can get is $50,000.
You go bankrupt.
$50,000, that doesn't cover their vehicle. It doesn't cover anything. $50,000 is, I mean, it's ludicrous that the insurance companies are allowed to do all this. You know, it's really bad.
Well, it's it doesn't seem like it's going to get any better anytime soon.
Right. Well, you got to remember that last year, I have State Farm insurance. Last year, State Farm made $1.4 billion with a B. $1.4 billion. And they're complaining about giving somebody the care that they paid for. I paid for unlimited personal injury protection. I don't know about you, but unlimited is a word, right? Unlimited, not unlimited to a limit, right? There was no limit in there. But
you deal now with the catastrophic fund, right, as opposed to with State Farm.
The whole catastrophic thing with State Farm it's kind of a joke, you know.
Well, not just them. Don't want to single them out.
No. I don't want to single them out.
They're all the same.
I deal with them, so I know their statistics.
Yeah.
Like I say, I know they made over $100 billion last year. $100 billion. That's a crazy amount of money for somebody that, you know, most of these insurance companies are considered nonprofit organizations. That's a pretty big profit for a nonprofit organization.
Yeah. All right, we're going to take a break, come back, and finish up with our guests. Let me talk about McDonald Ford in Freeland for a moment. You probably noticed it's getting harder and harder to find products made in America. And now with the uncertainty of tariffs, it's become even more important. McDonald Ford, in anticipation of tariffs, stocked their lot with tariff-free vehicles, with many more en route. Not only are they tariff-free, but Ford is offering employee pricing for everyone. That means you pay the same price as Ford employees do. In addition, Chrysler and import buyers, if you're considering a Ford, you'll receive the lowest price offered. Chevy truck buyers, you can now get the truck you've always wanted, the Ford F-150, also at employee pricing. So you see, now is the right time to visit McDonald Ford, M47 Freeland, for the best selection and the lowest price possible. Don't let tariffs prevent you from getting the vehicle of your choice at a price you can afford. Visit McDonald Ford in Freeland today. Also, if you're looking for a pre-owned vehicle, don't forget they're tariff-free. And McDonald Ford has a large selection. Remember, tariff-free and employee pricing for everyone.
Switch it up and ride into...
You had some comments you want to make about that?
Yeah, thank you, Art. I just wanted to clarify a couple things like George had mentioned. First of all, with the idea of an unlimited policy, I think one of the things that, and you had mentioned, Art, what about the legislature and things, but I think an unlimited policy, I think people can run with that very liberally.
It's a big word.
It's a big word. And so I think what actually happened from a provider perspective is that the catastrophic fund, insurance companies, even before the law changed, home care was being regulated. Like there were rate surveys, there were I mean, we were putting out what we were going to charge, so there was an awareness, and it wasn't this, everybody could collect whatever they wanted, and the auto insurance would just write you a check.
Yeah, it was in the news, actually.
Yeah, exactly. And I think one of the things we've encouraged folks to think about is more along the lines of, you're buying a lifetime benefit, like a life insurance policy, for medically necessary injuries after a car accident. So I just wanted to clarify that piece initially. And then the other part, to mention some of those trial attorney sides of it. Again, like I said, we do that ourselves. We work through our own clients and their own needs with our own in-house attorney on retainer. And oftentimes we had, I think, talked a little bit about the insurance companies kind of needing to eventually make a decision, or when push comes to shove. And typically that time is the Friday before a Monday trial, when they'll actually make a decision on something. So, unfortunately, that has just kind of been our process and what we've come used to. And so even to loop back around one more circle, you had mentioned the legislature making some potential changes. Our hope would be that the continued change, or the affirmation would be that home care is a necessary service, and that we wouldn't have to necessarily go and seek legal counsel recourse for, again, individuals like George who have paid for the care.
Well, what you need is some reasonable rate of return, right?
Correct.
Basically.
Correct. Yeah, easy enough.
Because then you wouldn't have problems going in and servicing clients.
Correct. And again, a lot of that, like I said, was already regulated. It was made to seem, when the reform was going through, that it wasn't.
Yeah.
And yet home care itself, and that's why we believe it to be an unintended consequence, just got wrapped up and is now interpreted in this 55% bucket, where, again, some of these lawsuits have affirmed that there may be other ways to interpret the statute that allows us to operate, and that's why we're taking the chance of taking care of a guy like George here.
So, George, what's day-to-day life like for you? What's your typical day?
My day-to-day life, it's well, since Brian and his company, they've taken over some of my care. It's greatly increased my my whole day-to-day life. But basic days are, I gotta have help getting out of bed. I gotta have help getting into the bathroom, into a shower. There's no place to, you can't just make yourself dinner. Go up to an average stove and imagine sitting in a chair. The frying pan's right in your face, so anything you cook is in your face. So cooking is an issue. There's so many difficulties that the home health care, the home attendant care that now I'm getting provided by Brian's company is such a huge thing that it's not even believable. I mean, you just can't imagine what that is. So from a shower to going to the bathroom to just simply getting out your basic, everything you do. If you can imagine every single thing you do in your day-to-day life, you need somebody to help you.
And how much therapy do you get?
Right now it's limited because of my shoulder issues, but prior to that I was going to a neuro therapy company in